Okay, two-parter with this one. The first part is the problem or the challenge we're up against as technical builders in this era of AI. And the second part is a solution in the form of an architecture. And I'm going to give two examples of how this architecture can be applied, one for a technical app builder and one for a student with a side hustle. Okay, so the setup is something that is going to be familiar for everyone who has coded before the AI era and has realized that the skill you spent so much time trying to master, clean code, is decreasing in value rapidly to the point where it's going to be a commodity. This is a graphic of what skills or layers of the builder's stack I believe are stable versus what are going to change and be in flux frequently. And based on this ranking, this power ranking, it is an indication on what things I think are worth investing in or skills to develop more. So code is, of course, the lowest stability ranking. And the part of code is the syntax, the frameworks, the docs, the tooling, the things that already changed every 2 years dramatically. Now are probably going to change every year, every quarter. I think the interfaces themselves would be very different in the next 5 to 10 years. The conventions in the infrastructure is when we start to get a little more stable. And conventions, I mean your naming conventions, your linting rules, your file structure, just how you do things. There will probably be patterns that you're following, like you're not recreating every prettier config file or linting rule for every project you're doing. But the way you do things is kind of going to be similar. Even more so will be the infrastructure, which is how all the things below it run. So compute architecture, the artifacts, where things are stored on the internet, which cloud providers are using. Those are the metaphorical gold mine areas where all these people digging for gold are. They're in the same spot, and those aren't going to change. And of course, the protocols, none of this really works if the protocols are constantly shifting. So by definition, these have to stay stable. And finally is brand. By brand, I mean your point of view, your authenticity, your principles, your purpose, your philosophy, your ethics, your taste. This is fundamentally what it means to be human and how you offer your thoughts into the marketplace of ideas or products. This is something that AI can't do. It could maybe clone you and act as if it were you, but you as your own brand and sticking true to that is a very evergreen skill. So given this, we're coders. A lot of us have been coders for a while and things are changing now. I don't think the right move is to just put your head down and keep investing into the syntax of the code. I think it's better to move up a little bit and focus on architecture, especially design patterns and conventions, or holding some kind of quality gates so that as the AI starts writing more of this and doing this for you, you're able to do it in a way that feels like you, that you can easily replicate and that you can iterate faster on. I think eventually once we get to the singularity where AI can do everything, it'll just be easy to do these things, but that's going to take a bit. In the meantime, having some structure around the things that you're building is going to pay dividends immensely and immediately. So this is something that people have already figured out who ship a lot. They just have their template, they have their stack. This is how we do things, and we're just going to change the business rules or the marketing. But I think this applies even more so to just regular people dipping their toes into AI, starting to build workflows around it. And what I'm advertising here is a monorepo architecture, where we have libraries that are split up to do specific things, and they all work together very well. Mix and match, you can tweak one without breaking the other. And very importantly, they share a core set of principles, which is kind of the branding portion of what we're doing here. So on this section, we have a scenario of, this is a tech founder who posts content. Their main focus is building an app for consumers, and on the side, to help support that app and drive traffic to it, they post content on social media, and that's the two things they're trying to organize with their lives. And I left out the app building stuff to not make this too complicated. So I'm just focused on the posts. These are libraries that are basically just markdown files of KPIs. So in this case, it would be like, I want to hit 1,000 users to the site per day by Q2. Spec would be why you're doing something, how you do something. You could say, I post content once a week. I post content once a day. I am authentic and raw in my conversation. These are things that you could put into your content spec. And then the rules will come into the linting, how you do configs, maybe your TypeScript config, base prettier, get ignores, all those configgy things, and just how you do things. You might have opinions on tabs for spaces. That can all be stored here. That's the base layer. It makes sense to invest a lot into that one. The middle layer, we have refs. So this is more for the posting side. These would be references, posts you like, creators you like, books, articles, the style of writing that you like. These might be markdown text files, documents, or PDFs. Brand could be how you appear, what colors you use, your typography, spacing, design assets, and things like that. These would be more visual, but it could be PNGs, PDFs, web links. And finally, posts. So everything under here are just libraries, which don't have an artifact necessarily and don't run at runtime. Posts is an app. The top layer is like an app. It runs in your command line. You host it in the cloud. So you go to it through a website, and it uses these libraries to create something for you. The artifact here would be like, say I'm a Twitter guy or an X guy, and it cranks out X posts or LinkedIn posts based on how these things work together. That's the posting side of things. Instead, we're breaking it out into, in this case, 5 libraries that help contribute to the artifact of having a Twitter thread. And then we have metrics. Metrics will be an app. I would probably want to host this in the cloud just so I can go to it anywhere on the internet. And what would be fed to that would be here. This library would be a thin wrap around Google Analytics, for example. Cash would be like cash flow, revenue, thin wrap around Stripe, for example. This is where you're getting to see why this is so useful. So we do these wrappers a lot in code. Say you have a logger or a date function library, and it's common to create your own wrapper around it. You're just making it easy to swap out the library if you want. You could do the same thing here with Google Analytics, swap it out for another analytics platform. Cash with Stripe, if you don't like Stripe, go with a different one. If you don't like US dollars, you want to go to Canadian dollars. At least you have some control there. When the models are helping build out this traffic or code the traffic for you, they're always referencing your KPIs, like what you're going for, your specs, like what you believe in your roles, which is how you do things. In any of these boxes, you're interacting with AI and you're having AI write the code. Because you've architected it this way, you're preserving your brand and the very human way of doing things. You're making it easier to operate in a stable architecture and follow the same conventions. You're setting the AI up to do better work and for it to apply to how you do things. It's going to feel like you with all these things set up this way. Versus if you just open up Claude command line or the chat app or OpenAI and you say, hey, build me a metrics platform, it's going to feel like everyone else's metrics platform and not yours. Let's go to the student now. Your student who runs an Instagram meme page on the side. Interestingly, we only have one app. The one app is the post generator. So it's an Instagram site, so it's going to be specific to Instagram. So maybe this is a mobile app, and it's just used by this person to generate their posts in their meme style with their branding and how they talk and the little nuances of their account. We have a traffic library using Google Analytics. We're using Instagram Analytics and an engagement library. So this could be like auto commenting, posting replies to people, things like that. Then we have the student section of things. Now we have a notes library, and a notes would be like your graph, your knowledge graph, how all the things connect together. If you use like Obsidian or Roam Research, or you do traditional like hierarchical file structure, or you do tags, whatever, you could plop them all in here in your notes library, and the AI can help you with that. Then we have the writing library, which would be similar to what we had for refs, except this would be your writing specifically, and maybe some notes on how you do things. You don't need your own app for this, because what comes out of notes and writings is just papers, which are PDFs or text files, and you could foil those back into writing or notes themselves. Although you could elevate that and create one here if you start building out your own workflow about how do I, as a researcher, as a PhD candidate, do writing different than everyone else, then maybe that does make sense. But of course, at the bottom, we have KPIs, specs, and rules. In this person's life, their KPIs are probably like get good grades, get higher engagement and traffic to Instagram and more followers. Their specs might be like, here's the kind of topics I'm interested in, here's what I research, here's what I like posting on. And then their rules would be time of day when you post, what kind of schedule you like, your views on work-life balance. So it wouldn't be so much like, yeah, of course you'd have configs and specs, but it's probably a little less rigid than the technologist who's running an app. So we went kind of deep into there, but I trust you see that there is a structure here that is both simple but also extensible. It looks like maybe a complicated when someone would look at the lines, but you see that at the top we have the runtime. In the middle, libraries are categorized by what they do. And at the bottom, we have the evergreen shared things of your brand that are very solid, very stable. The takeaways I want to give, zooming out a little bit, are this. In terms of what skills to invest in, architecture, like how to structure things well. When we have so many different tools, when the AI can all do something, it's hard to make it feel like you and have some cohesion and control over it. So having an architecture like this would be really helpful. So that's one. And then second one, I'm saying brand, especially. And you invest in brand by just taking some time to write down what are you going for, how do you do it, and why. Those will pay dividends in basically every project you're doing in the future. So what architecture to use? How are you going to do this? I would recommend Monorepo. So I can break down, if this video goes well, you're interested, how to do this in NX, which is like JavaScript or TypeScript. I really like how they do things, but there's a lot of different ways that you could do it if you're in Python or you use something else. So finally, for app builders, if you're an app builder like me, the takeaway is to be precious about architecture, infrastructure, and outcomes. Be less precious about code and syntax. Takeaway for creators: double down on taste. I think taste is especially important, because in a world where everyone can build anything, having discernment around what to build and how to make it look and feel is really important. And then finally, for everyone, commitment to what rarely changes. So again, this is principles, brand, but also willingness to adapt everything else. The code itself, the skill we all invested a lot in early on, is just not that important anymore. If we're willing to change and still write code, still be authors of code, and code is how we do things, but doing it in a different way, I think we're going to win. Let me know if you like this style of video and I'll make more. If not, watch this video up here. Give me a like and subscribe. That helps the channel a lot. See you in the next one.